Can you believe it? India and China gobbled up 80% of Russian crude exports in May. Yes, that's nearly all of Russian crude exports. And if that's hard to believe, consider this. Russia managed to break records with their seaborne crude exports in May despite all the sanctions. Russian crude export hit a whopping 3.87 million barrels per day. Russia is now supplying 45% of India's crude imports and 20% of China's. The International Energy Agency foresees a further increase in the demand of Russian crude by India and China. India-Russia partnership has been an eyesore for the West, especially India's insistence to continue to buy cheap Russian oil. But what's also interesting to note is that record amount of Russian crude upon refining in India ends up in Europe and the US. In other words, Europe and the US don't mind benefiting from the arrangement, but at the same time continue to act holier than thou in the international forums. With European Union and US sanctions in place, more than 90% of Russian seaborne crude is now headed to Asia, up from pre-war levels of 34%. The incentive to buy cheap Russian crude remains underpinned by deep discounts. Russia's main crude export grade Urals discount to dated Brent averaged $26 per barrel in the first 3 weeks of May. In the month of May 2023, India's imports skyrocketed by another 14% over April, hitting an all-time high. According to International Energy Agency, India's oil demand will surpass China's by 2027. The agency also said that although India's rate of expansion has been slowing for decades, population growth will likely not peak until 2065. Further propelled by trends such as urbanization, industrialization, and the emergence of a wealthier middle class keen for mobility and tourism, Indian oil demand will grow by more than 1 million barrels per day between 2022 and 2028.